My fiancée threw my engagement ring straight at my face after her childhood best friend came back in her life. She looked at me and said, "Wyatt and I have a connection so deep that your pathetic mind could never understand." Years later, after karma completely turned her life upside down, she came back begging for another chance. So, Reddit, here's what happened. The night before our wedding, my fiancée called everything off. She told me I had never been anything more than a placeholder while she chased the man she believed was her true love. I watched her choices destroy the life she thought she wanted. Years later, she was a single mother living in her mother's basement, while my own life had turned out better than I ever imagined. Grab a chair because this story is a wild ride. I'm a 36-year-old man, and I spent 6 months of overtime pay to buy the engagement ring she eventually threw at me. For half a year, I stayed late at the aerospace plant, volunteered for weekend shifts, skipped lunches, and saved every extra $20 I could. Eventually, I bought a beautiful 2-carat diamond set in a white gold band. It wasn't flashy, but it was high quality. It cost me around $8,000. When I proposed, my fiancée, Lauren, who was 34, cried happy tears. At least, that's what I believed at the time. They were the kind of tears that made me think I'd finally done something right. We had been together for nearly 4 years and had lived together for the last 2. We split the rent, shared the bills, and even had a joint savings account. We were just a normal couple building a future together. I worked as an engineer designing ventilation systems for military aircraft at a defense contractor. We weren't wealthy, but we were financially stable. We made plans like 2 adults who genuinely believed they had their lives together. Wedding planning took about 8 months. Lauren handled most of it while I showed up whenever she needed me, approved decisions, and did my share. Everything seemed completely normal. My mom loved her. My friends liked her. Every box seemed checked. Our rehearsal dinner was on Friday night, and the wedding was scheduled for Saturday at 3 in the afternoon. Around 40 people attended the rehearsal in the church basement. After the rehearsal dinner ended and most of the guests had left, only Lauren, the wedding coordinator, and I remained. The coordinator was going over the final details when Lauren suddenly interrupted her. "I can't do this," she announced. "I can't marry you, Jude." The wedding coordinator froze. I just stood there trying to understand what I had just heard. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "The wedding is tomorrow. Everyone's already here." "I know exactly when the wedding is," she replied sharply. "And I'm telling you that I can't go through with it. I don't love you. I never really did." Before I could even react, she ripped the engagement ring off her finger and threw it directly in my face. It wasn't a gentle toss. It was a full-speed fastball that slammed into my forehead hard enough to leave a mark before bouncing across the tile floor. I bent down, picked up the ring, looked at it for a moment, and then looked back at her. "You're serious?" "Completely serious." Then she said the words that completely shattered everything I thought I knew. "You were always just a placeholder. Someone stable and boring while I figured out what I actually wanted. And what I want is Wyatt." Wyatt was her childhood best friend who had moved back to town about 6 months earlier. She continued, "Wyatt and I have talked every single day since he came back. We connect so deeply that your pathetic mind could never understand. He gets me. He understands me. You're just safe. Predictable. I settled for you because I thought that was the kind of life I was supposed to want. But I don't want safe anymore." The wedding coordinator quietly tried to leave the room, but Lauren stopped her. "No, stay. You need to hear this too, so you can cancel everything. There won't be a wedding tomorrow." I looked at Lauren in disbelief. "We've been together for 4 years. We've lived together for 2. And you're telling me, the night before our wedding, that I was nothing more than a placeholder?" "Yes," she answered without hesitation. "That's exactly what I'm telling you." She folded her arms as if she had just won an argument. "Wyatt is the man I should have been with all along. We were inseparable as kids. First loves never really die." In the corner of the room sat Giggsy inside his travel cage. I had brought him with me because I had a veterinary appointment scheduled immediately after the rehearsal. Giggsy is an African gray parrot, and I've had him for 6 years. He's incredibly intelligent, and for some reason, he had never liked Lauren. Throughout our relationship, she asked me twice to get rid of him. She complained that he was loud, messy, and made the apartment smell. Both times I refused. At that moment, Giggsy let out a loud squawk. Lauren pointed at the cage. See? Even that bird knows I don't belong here. His name is Giggsy, I replied calmly. I don't care what his name is, she snapped. I hate that bird, and I hate this boring life we've built together. Wyatt has passion. He has excitement. You have a 401k, and a stupid bird that never stops screaming. The wedding coordinator awkwardly cleared her throat. I'll give you two some privacy. She practically rushed out of the room, and honestly, I couldn't blame her. I looked at Lauren. So that's it, I asked. 4 years together, and it's over just because your childhood crush moved back into town? He's not a crush, Jude, she said firmly. He's my soulmate. I should have never let him go in the first place. Choosing you was just the safe option. I'm done pretending I like you. I slipped the engagement ring into my pocket. All right, she stared at me, surprised. That's it? That's all you're going to say? What exactly were you expecting? I asked. What do you mean? Did you think I'd fight for you? Beg you to stay? Try to convince you to change your mind? She didn't answer. That's not happening, I said. You made your choice. I'm not going to compete with some fantasy you've built up in your head. Her face immediately turned red. You're not even going to try to stop me? Hard pass. She actually sounded offended. I thought you'd at least care enough to fight for us. There is no us anymore, I replied. You made sure of that. I picked up Giggsy's travel cage. I'm going home. Since you're so done with this boring life, you can stay at your mom's tonight. Fine, she snapped. But I'm taking Giggsy. I couldn't help laughing. You're not taking my bird. I paid for half of everything in that apartment, she argued. I deserve to take something. You hate him, I reminded her. You literally just said you hate him. Why would you even want him? Her answer showed me just how twisted her thinking really was. Because I deserve to take something from you, she said. Since you're being such a jerk about this, hand over the bird. No. She reached for the cage. The moment she did, Giggsy completely lost it. He started screeching, flapping his wings, and bouncing around inside the cage. I pulled it back before she could grab it. From inside the cage, Giggsy suddenly yelled, "Give me that stupid bird." Lauren lunged again. I stepped aside. Are you out of your mind? This is my rehearsal dinner too, she shouted. You don't get to kick me out. You just called off the wedding, I said. There isn't a rehearsal anymore. Get out. At that moment, a security guard poked his head into the room. He had probably heard all the yelling. Everything okay in here? No, Lauren answered immediately. He's trying to steal my bird. The guard looked at me. I looked back at him. Then Giggsy looked at both of us and clearly said, "Bad lady." It's my bird, I explained. I've had him for 6 years. She just called off our wedding, told me I was nothing more than a placeholder, and now she's trying to take him just to spite me. The guard had the expression of someone who had dealt with relationship drama before and wanted absolutely no part of it. Ma'am, he said, if the bird isn't yours, you need to leave the gentleman alone. This is insane. Lauren shouted. I'm the victim here. The victim? I repeated. You called off our wedding, told me I was just a placeholder, threw an engagement ring at my face, and now you're claiming you're the victim because I won't let you take my parrot? You're making me look crazy. You're doing that yourself, the guard muttered. I want that bird. Lauren yelled. She made one last attempt to grab the cage. Giggsy reacted instantly. He reached through the bars and bit her finger. It wasn't a serious bite, just enough to make his point. Lauren screamed as though she'd been shot. That demon bird attacked me. You attacked him first, I said. The security guard stepped between us. All right, that's enough. Ma'am, you need to leave the premises. Right now. You can't kick me out. Lauren protested. I rented this space. Actually, I said, I rented it. The contract is in my name. Her face went from bright red to nearly purple. This is unbelievable. You're seriously choosing a bird over me? She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. But before leaving, she turned around for one last shot. You're going to regret this, Jude. When you're sitting alone in your boring apartment with your stupid bird, you'll finally realize what you lost. I shrugged. Probably not. She slammed the door so hard the walls shook. The security guard looked over at me. The security guard looked at me. You doing okay, man? Yeah, I replied. Thanks for having my back. No problem. After that, I took Giggsy to his vet appointment. It was just a routine checkup I'd scheduled weeks earlier. On the drive there, he was unusually quiet. When we got back home, I opened his cage, and he immediately hopped onto my shoulder. You knew she was bad news all along, didn't you? I asked him. The next morning, I woke up to complete chaos. My phone showed 47 text messages and 23 missed calls. The wedding was supposed to begin at 3:00 p.m., and it was only 9:00 that morning, but everyone was already trying to reach me. Lauren's mom, my mom, her bridesmaids, my groomsmen, the caterer, the photographer, practically everyone involved wanted to know what had happened. Instead of answering each person individually, I sent one group message. Asterisk, the wedding is off. Lauren called it off during the rehearsal last night. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I know the deposits are non-refundable, but I'll take care of the cancellation fees. Asterisk, then I turned my phone off and went to make breakfast. Giggsy sat on his perch, watching me with his head tilted. What do you think, buddy? I asked. Scrambled eggs or fried? I had just cracked the second egg when someone started pounding on the apartment door. Jude, open up. I need to get my stuff. Lauren. I opened the door. She brushed right past me and headed straight for the bedroom. What are you doing? I asked. I'm getting my things. I'm moving in with Wyatt today, and I need my clothes. Fine, I said. Take your clothes. That's it. She disappeared into the bedroom. I followed her because there was no way I was letting her wander through the apartment unsupervised. Giggsy rode on my shoulder the entire time, making little clicking noises that sounded like he disapproved of everything happening. Lauren started throwing clothes into a duffel bag. Then I watched her pick up the iPad from the nightstand. That's mine, I said. We shared it. I bought it. My name is on the receipt. Put it back. She rolled her eyes but tossed it back onto the bed. Next, she opened the dresser and pulled out a jewelry box. Where do you think you're going with that? I asked. These are my earrings. Some of them are, I replied. Half of those earrings were gifts from me. Those are yours. You gave them to me. Yes, and they're yours now. But the ones your mom gave you, those are obviously yours too. However, the antique jewelry set from my grandmother, the one I only let you borrow for special occasions, that isn't leaving this apartment. Her face turned red. You're being petty. You called off our wedding 12 hours ago, told me I was nothing more than a placeholder, and ended our relationship. I'm not being petty. I'm being practical. She let out an irritated sigh, but finally sorted through the jewelry box, keeping the pieces that belonged to her and leaving the rest behind. As she moved around the room, I noticed her eyes constantly drifting toward my laptop on the desk, the noise-canceling headphones, and anything else she thought she might be able to claim. I knew exactly what she was doing. She was taking inventory, looking around the apartment, calculating what she could argue belonged to her. Then she walked into the living room. Almost immediately, her attention landed on the television. Don't even think about it, I warned. We bought that together. No, Novia. I bought it. You chipped in $50 2 years ago. If you want to argue about it, I still have the receipts in my filing cabinet. Giggsy bobbed his head from my shoulder. Shut up, Lauren snapped at him. I looked at her. If you talk to my bird like that one more time, you'll leave here with absolutely nothing. She stood there silently, furious. I could practically see her brain working as she searched the apartment for anything she thought she could take. Finally, she threw her hands up. You know what, Fine? Keep everything. Keep your boring stuff. Keep your boring apartment. And keep your stupid bird. Wyatt already has a fully furnished place. I don't need any of this. Great, I said. Then you can leave. She picked up her duffel bag and stomped toward the front door. Just before walking out, she stopped and turned back to face me. There's one thing I do want. What? The ring. The engagement ring. That's mine. I can sell it. I couldn't help laughing. The same ring you threw at my face while telling me I was boring. I was emotional, she said. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to tell me I was a placeholder and that you never loved me. I looked at her and shook my head. The ring stays with me. That's not fair. You ended the engagement. You don't get to keep the ring. That's pretty standard. But you're not even going to use it. Maybe I will, I said. Maybe I'll melt it down and turn it into a nameplate for Giggsy's cage. Maybe I'll sell it myself. Either way, it's not your concern anymore. She looked like she wanted to keep arguing, but even she seemed to realize how ridiculous she sounded. Fine, she spat. Keep your stupid ring. Keep everything. Then she added one last insult. You'll die alone anyway. A second later, she slammed the door behind her. I heard her stomping down the hallway before the building's front door slammed shut. Then there was silence. I looked around the apartment. Everything was exactly where it belonged. Nothing was missing except the person who had called me boring while trying to steal my belongings on the way out. About an hour later, my best friend Josh showed up carrying food and a case of energy drinks. Dude, he said as soon as he walked in. What the heck happened? I told him everything. The rehearsal dinner disaster. The broken engagement. Lauren showing up that morning and trying to claim half the apartment. Josh listened without interrupting, which is one of the reasons he's my best friend. He never jumps to conclusions. He just lets you talk. When I finished, he leaned back and shook his head. She tried to take Giggsy? Yep. After telling you that you're boring and saying she never loved you? Yep. And then she came back this morning trying to steal your stuff? That's the part that really got me, I said. She leaves me at the altar and then shows up the next day, acting entitled to half my apartment. I practically had to watch her every second to make sure she didn't walk out with my laptop. Josh grabbed a sandwich from the bag. Man, you dodged a massive bullet. I almost married that bullet. I was about 18 hours away from it. But you didn't, Josh replied. That's what matters. He stayed for the rest of the day. We watched movies, ate junk food, and ignored my phone. Eventually, I turned it back on, and it immediately exploded with messages, missed calls, questions, accusations, and opinions from people who had no business giving them. One message stood out. It was from Evie, one of Lauren's bridesmaids. Hey, Jude, I heard what happened. That's really messed up. If you need someone to talk to, I'm around. I showed the message to Josh. Lauren's friend reached out. Evie, he asked. The blonde one who works at the hospital? Yeah. She's always seemed cool. Honestly, I'm not surprised she's checking on you instead of blindly taking Lauren's side. I sent back a simple thank you and left it at that. At the time, I wasn't in the right headspace for anything beyond surviving the next few days. The following week felt strange. There was so much to untangle. I had to cancel the honeymoon, return wedding gifts, contact vendors, and sort out all the loose ends that come with a wedding that suddenly doesn't exist anymore. According to my mom, who had heard it from Lauren's mom, Lauren had moved in with Wyatt almost immediately. They were already playing house together, as if the last 4 years of my life had meant absolutely nothing. Thankfully, work gave me something else to focus on. I'm an aerospace engineer for a defense contractor. It sounds more exciting than it actually is. Most days, I sit in front of a computer designing ventilation systems for aircraft. It's not glamorous, but the pay is good, and I genuinely enjoy solving technical problems. About 2 weeks after the wedding that never happened, my supervisor called me into his office. I've got a project that might interest you, he said. Lead design role on the new transport helicopter contract. I looked at him. That's a lot of responsibility. It is, he said, but I think you can handle it. A promotion. The same week my wedding fell apart, I was being offered a promotion. I'm interested, I said. Good. We'll talk about the details next week. In the meantime, take care of yourself, Jude. After that, I threw myself into work. I stayed late, came in early, volunteered for extra assignments. Anything that kept my mind busy and stopped me from imagining Lauren and Wyatt living their perfect life together. Then, about a month after the canceled wedding, Evie texted me again. Coffee sometime? No pressure. I just thought you might want to talk to someone who understands how weird this whole situation is. I thought about it for a day before finally agreeing. We met at a coffee shop downtown. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups waiting. She smiled when she saw me. I wasn't sure what you drink, she said, so I got black coffee and left room for cream and sugar if you want it. Black is perfect, I said. Thanks. We sat there in slightly awkward silence for about a minute before she finally spoke. I'm really sorry about what happened with Lauren, Evie said. For what it's worth, most of us had no idea she was planning to call off the wedding. She kept the whole thing with Wyatt pretty quiet. Most of you, I asked. Her cousin knew, she admitted. They're really close. But the rest of us were completely blindsided. Let me guess, I said. Her cousin approved. Evie gave a small, knowing smile. She did more than approve. She encouraged it. She kept telling Lauren she deserved passion and excitement, and that settling for stability meant giving up on true love. Real helpful advice. Sounds like a wonderful person, I said sarcastically. Evie laughed. Yeah, she's honestly a piece of garbage. Her own life is always full of drama, but Lauren listened to everything she said. I took a sip of my coffee. So you're still friend with Lauren? I wasn't accusing her. I was genuinely curious. Not really, she replied. I told her calling off the wedding the night before was cruel and completely insane. She told me I didn't understand what real love was. We haven't spoken since. We ended up talking for nearly 2 hours. She was easy to talk to, funny in a dry, sarcastic way that I really liked. I also found out she worked as a nurse at the children's hospital. That explained her no-nonsense attitude. When you spend your days taking care of seriously sick kids, relationship drama probably feels pretty insignificant. As we left the coffee shop, she smiled. This was nice. Want to do it again sometime? Yeah, I said. I'd like that. After that, we started meeting up regularly. Coffee turned into lunch. Lunch turned into dinner. Nothing felt rushed. Nothing felt forced. It was just two people whose lives had both been affected by Lauren's chaos, slowly figuring out what came next. Giggsy approved of Evie immediately. The first time she came over to my apartment, he climbed right onto her shoulder and started playing with her hair. He likes you, I said. That's actually pretty rare. For months, we kept things casual. No pressure. No laves. We simply enjoyed spending time together. She understood that I needed time to heal, and I appreciated that she never tried to replace what I'd lost. Life slowly settled into something comfortable. Work was going incredibly well. The promotion became official, and I was leading the design team on the new helicopter contract. The raise was nice, but what meant even more was the added responsibility and the respect I started receiving from coworkers who had always treated me like just another engineer sitting in a cubicle. Evie and I found our rhythm. She stayed over on weekends. I'd help her study for her master's program. We'd take Giggsy to the park. It was all the normal relationship stuff, but without the constant tension I'd always felt with Lauren. Exactly 1 year after the wedding that never happened, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I answered anyway. Dude, it was Lauren's mother. I almost hung up immediately. What can I do for you? I need to talk to you about my daughter. She's not doing well. Okay. That was all I said. Okay. She sounded surprised. What do you want me to say? She let out a long sigh. Things with Wyatt aren't working out. He's not the man she thought he was. She already has a baby boy, and she's 8 months pregnant with their second child. That's unfortunate, I replied. Unfortunate, she repeated. Jude, she's struggling. She's about to have 2 children less than 2 years apart. Wyatt is barely around. She's exhausted. She's overwhelmed. And I think she's finally realizing she made a terrible mistake by leaving you. I'm still not sure why you're calling me. Because you were good to her, Mrs. Henderson said. You were stable. You were reliable. She threw all of that away chasing a fantasy. Now she's paying the price, and I'm watching my daughter fall apart. Mrs. Henderson, I said calmly, that's no longer my responsibility. You don't even care? You spent 4 years together. No, she sounded genuinely confused. She was just confused. No, incorrecta. She made a very deliberate choice. And now she's living with the consequences of that choice. So you just want to move on? You're going to pretend those 4 years meant nothing? I already have. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Finally, she spoke again. Evie, one of Lauren's bridesmaids. So that's true. Lauren heard about the two of you. She's upset all over again. Not my problem. She needs support right now, Jude. She needs someone who understands her. Then she should call Wyatt. Or maybe her cousin, the one who encouraged this entire mess. But she shouldn't call me. And if she does, I'm not answering. So you're really not going to help her? Help her with what exactly? Her relationship problems with the man she left me for? Her decision to have 2 children in less than 2 years with someone she barely knew. What exactly am I supposed to do about any of that? Mrs. Henderson's voice became much quieter. She talks about you sometimes. She says you would have been a wonderful father. She says she should have appreciated what she had. That's nice, I replied. She can think that all she wants. It doesn't change anything. I hung up before Mrs. Henderson could say another word. After that, Evie and I just kept moving forward. 2 years after the wedding that never happened, I proposed. It wasn't anything extravagant. It was just the two of us, with Giggsy nearby, at the same park where we'd had our first real conversation after that initial coffee date. I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She said yes. We picked a wedding date in the fall, just like my first wedding was supposed to be. But this time, everything felt different. There were no nagging doubts, no red flags I was trying to ignore. It was simply two people who genuinely belonged together. About 6 months before the wedding, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Jude. It was Lauren. I almost hung up without saying a word. Please don't, she said quickly. Please don't hang up. I need to talk to you. About what? About us. About everything. Her voice cracked as she spoke. Wyatt and I are over. He cheated on me. Multiple times. With my cousin. Okay. There was a pause. Okay, she repeated. That's all you have to say? What were you expecting me to say? I don't know. Something. Anything. She started crying. I messed up, Jude. I messed up so badly. I never should have left you. You were exactly what I needed, and I was too stupid to realize it. Lauren, I have 2 little boys now. I'm raising them by myself because Wyatt doesn't care about being a father. He only wanted the fun parts. He never wanted the responsibility. I'm exhausted. I'm overwhelmed. And I keep thinking about how different my life would have been if I'd just married you like I was supposed to. That's not my problem. I know it isn't, she admitted. But I'm telling you, I made the biggest mistake of my life. You were good to me. You were stable. You were kind. You actually loved me. And I threw all of that away, chasing a fantasy that turned into a nightmare. I took a slow breath. Lauren, I'm engaged. Silence. What? I'm getting married in 6 months. To who? Evie. Another long silence. Finally, she whispered, my bridesmaid. Evie? Yeah, you're marrying her? That's what being engaged means. Who they know? Please. You can't marry her. She's not right for you. I know you. I know what you need. This is just revenge. You're only doing this to hurt me. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just living my life. But we were supposed to end up together. I frowned. Why? It was supposed to be a phase. Something I needed to get out of my system. Then we'd find our way back to each other. That's how it was supposed to work. Lauren. That's insane. It's not insane. People do it all the time. They take a break. They figure themselves out. Then they come back stronger than ever. We didn't take a break. You left me at the altar. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was confused. I was scared. My cousin kept telling me I deserved more excitement, more passion, but she was wrong. You were enough. You were always enough. Cool. She went quiet. Cool, she asked. That's all. What do you want me to say? I want you to forgive me. I want us to try again. I want you to call off your wedding and give us another chance. That's not going to happen. Please, Jude. Please. I'm begging you. I have 2 children. I'm a single mother. Wyatt wants nothing to do with us. My cousin won't even answer my calls anymore. I have nobody. I need you. You don't need me. You need help. But I'm not the person who can give it to you. I love you. No, you don't. Edo. I've always loved you. No, you loved what I represented. Security, stability, a backup plan. You never loved me. That's not true. Lauren, I'm going to go now. Wait. Please. Good luck with everything. Then I ended the call. Evie looked up from the textbook she had been studying. Who was that? Nobody. A few months later, our wedding day finally arrived. The ceremony was scheduled to begin at 3:00 p.m. At 2:45, I was standing at the altar with Josh beside me as my best man. Evie was just moments away from walking down the aisle. The string quartet began playing. Everyone stood. Then, suddenly, someone shouted from the back of the venue. Stop! Every head turned toward the entrance. The doors flew open. Lauren came rushing inside with one toddler on her hip while another little boy clung to her leg. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Dark circles hung under her eyes. Her hair was tied into a messy, tangled bun. She was wearing sweatpants and a stained t-shirt. The music stopped instantly. The entire room fell into complete silence. Jude! She shouted as she marched straight down the aisle like she owned the place. Don't do this. You're making a mistake. I didn't move. I just stood there and watched Lauren march down the aisle toward the altar with Wyatt's children, while nearly 100 guests stared in complete disbelief. Lauren, I said, loud enough for everyone in the venue to hear. Get out. No. She was already crying, mascara running down her face. I can't let you marry her. You're supposed to be with me. We're supposed to be together. Somebody's grandmother gasped. I noticed Evie's dad starting to get out of his seat. We're not together, I said calmly. That ended a long time ago. She finally reached the altar, both little boys whimpering beside her. Why, it was a mistake, she cried. The biggest mistake of my life. I should have married you, Jude. I should have stayed. But I can fix this. We can fix this. Josh leaned over and quietly asked, Is she seriously doing this right now? Apparently. Lauren completely broke down. Please, she begged through tears. Please don't marry Evie. Leave her. Come with me. We could be a family. These boys need a father. And you're kind. You're stable. And Wyatt is their father, I interrupted. Not me. I know, she said frantically. But you could be better than him. You could step up. We could raise them together. You and me. The way we were supposed to before everything got messed up. The wedding coordinator looked like she wanted the ground to swallow her whole. Meanwhile, security was finally making their way down the aisle. I looked directly at Lauren. So let me make sure I understand this. I spoke loudly enough that everyone could hear. You want me to leave my bride standing at the altar, walk out my own wedding, and become a stepfather to your ex-boyfriend's children? That's your plan? Yes, she cried. Because we're meant to be together. We're soulmates, Jude. First loves never really end. We had something real, and you threw it away. I couldn't help laughing. I threw it away? You call me a placeholder. You threw my engagement ring at my face. You told me you never loved me. You moved in with Wyatt the very next day. But somehow I'm the one who threw it all away? Her face flushed bright red. I was scared. I was confused. I didn't mean it like that. You meant every single word. She was sobbing uncontrollably now. Both of the little boys had started crying too, overwhelmed by their mother breaking down in front of a room full of strangers. Please, Jude, I'm begging you. Don't marry Evie. She's wrong for you. I'm the one who's right for you. I know I made a mistake. But we can fix it. Leave her. Come with me. We'll walk out together. We'll start over. Everything could be the way it was always supposed to be. By then, 2 security guards had reached her. They were trying to be gentle because she was holding one child while the other stood beside her. Ma'am, one of them said calmly, you need to leave. No. She jerked away, so suddenly she almost dropped the toddler. Jude, please. You were supposed to wait for me. Wyatt was only supposed to be temporary. Then I'd come back, and you'd still be here. That's how this was supposed to work. That's insane, I said. It's not insane, she screamed. True love always finds its way back. You and me, Jude. We're supposed to end up together. This is destiny. Don't marry her. Please don't. Leave Evie. Choose me. Choose us. The toddler on her hip grabbed a handful of her hair and pulled. She yelped in pain, but kept pleading. These boys need you. I need you. And you need me, even if you're too stubborn to admit it. We're meant to be together. Please, Jude. Please don't throw away what we have. I looked her straight in the eyes. We don't have anything. You made sure of that 2 years ago. Ma'am, let's go. The security guards had started escorting her backward toward the exit. She continued screaming as they led her away. You'll regret this. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. Evie doesn't love you the way I do. She never could. We're soulmates, Jude. We belong together. Don't marry her. Please. Please don't marry her. The doors finally closed behind her. Silence. The entire room just sat there staring. Some guests looked horrified. Others looked like they couldn't believe the drama they had just witnessed. Josh was doing everything he could not to laugh. I turned toward the wedding coordinator. "Let's take 5 minutes," I said. "Then we'll start again from Evie's entrance." She nodded, still looking completely stunned. I looked over at Josh. "Find a venue manager and call my lawyer. I want the paperwork started immediately." A restraining order. 20 minutes later, the ceremony started again. This time, Evie walked down the aisle without interruption. When she finally reached me, she smiled, leaned in, and quietly whispered, "Your ex is completely unhinged." "Yeah," I whispered back. "That's why I'm filing for a restraining order first thing Monday morning." Evie smiled. "Good, because if she shows up at our reception, I'm dealing with her myself." I couldn't help but laugh. The officiant cleared his throat, and the ceremony continued. A few minutes later, we were officially married. Thankfully, nothing else went wrong. As crazy as it was, having your unhinged ex crash your wedding and beg you to leave your bride definitely made for a story nobody would ever forget. The reception went exactly the way it should have. No more drama. Just good food, cake, dancing, and celebrating with the people who genuinely cared about us. The following Monday, I filed for the restraining order. It was approved, and Lauren was legally prohibited from contacting me or coming within 500 feet of me. That chapter of my life was finally closed. Life kept moving forward. I earned another promotion at work. Evie and I bought our first house together. Giggsy even got his own room, complete with a huge cage and plenty of climbing trees. It was a quiet, stable, ordinary life. Exactly the kind of life Lauren once said she never wanted. About 3 months after our wedding, Josh told me he'd heard some news through mutual friends. Wyatt had been arrested. The charges included domestic violence, multiple counts of assault against Lauren, and child endangerment involving their children. When the police arrived, they found bruises on Lauren as well as on one of the boys. I didn't really react. I simply took in the information and went back to living my life. 6 months later, I heard that Wyatt had accepted a plea deal. He was sentenced to 8 years in state prison, with the possibility of parole after serving 5. He had already been transferred to a correctional facility upstate. Lauren, meanwhile, was living in her mother's basement with 2 children who were both under the age of 3. She had no job, no money, and before Wyatt was arrested, he had emptied their joint bank account. She was completely broke, desperate, and on her own. Even her cousin, the same cousin who had encouraged her to leave me and later slept with Wyatt, wanted nothing to do with her anymore. Most of her friends had disappeared too. It turned out the exciting, passionate life she thought she wanted came with an expiration date, and the father of her children now had a criminal record. I later heard she tried reaching out through mutual friend a few times. She was asking for money and claiming I somehow owed her compensation for wasting the best years of her life. My lawyer handled it. He sent cease and desist letters, and after that the attempt stopped. About a year after our wedding, Evie and I were having dinner when I noticed Lauren sitting across the restaurant. She was on a date with a man who looked to be in his late 50s. She looked exhausted, worn down. The spark she once had was completely gone. Then she looked up and saw me. I watched the recognition spread across her face. She even started to stand, as though she was about to walk over to our table. Instead, I turned back to Evie and continued our conversation. I didn't wave. I didn't acknowledge Lauren. I simply kept enjoying dinner with my wife. 5 minutes later, I glanced back. Lauren was gone. She had walked out, leaving her date sitting there by himself. And that was the last time I saw her. There was no dramatic confrontation. No emotional closure. No final conversation. Just a woman living with the consequences of the choices she made, while I continued living my own life. She chose Wyatt because she believed I was too boring, too stable, not exciting enough. Wyatt turned out to be an abusive man who is now serving 8 years in prison. Lauren ended up broke, living in her mother's basement, raising 2 children on her own while carrying the burden of having an abuser as the father of her kids. As for me, I earned a promotion, married the right woman, bought a home, and even gave my parrot his own room. I didn't have to seek revenge. I didn't have to prove anything. Life took care of that on its own. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living a good life. And that's exactly what I did. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot and motivates us to keep bringing you more amazing stories. Thank you for watching. Forward together. There was no rush, no pressure, just a steady, healthy relationship that grew stronger over time. About 18 months in, I caught myself looking at engagement rings again. Not obsessively, just casually browsing whenever I had some downtime at work.